It's funny, when the spirits had asked me specifically to talk about fear and transcending fear, I got a chuckle. I got a chuckle because it's like, really? Me, of all people? Because I tend to run a lot of fear. That just tends to be my chemistry, my impulse, my conditioning. There's pictures of my mother trying to bring me into the lake, our lovely, we lived in our grandparents lived in the Laurentians, and we go and visit. And there's a picture, and I'm just screaming and cringing, and no, that black water, no. I still have to psych myself up. But I like swimming, remember? It's fascinating, the fear that we carry, but I want to be specific that it's not ours alone. I run a lot of fear, but that's ancestral fear, and that's a collective humanity. I must be here to heal fear then. And to heal fear ultimately is to love fear. And yes, the topic specifically is to transcend fear, but really it's all emotions. Most of the times we get angry because we're afraid. And we're deeply sad because there's fear of more sorrow. Transcending fear. Well, one of the ways to do that ultimately is to welcome your fear. And oftentimes when we think of transcending something, the ego mind, the mind immediately goes to getting rid of fear, mastering fear, controlling fear. I mean, that's our instinct. That's what we want to do. So when I was anxious about tonight, my first instinct, why am I anxious about tonight? What am I so nervous about? How many times have I done this before? And blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, okay, wait a minute. I'm anxious about this because this is important to me. Let's welcome that. If I'm trying to make my anxiety go away, how can I really welcome my commitment to this work, my love for this work, my love for you? And how can I fully show up here? And I speak of me because we're doing this together, this thing called incarnation and bringing spirit into matter, sharing the relationship between being human and being spirit. I wrote a book on that. That's Mystical Intimacy. And the book is, I call it Mystical Intimacy because it's about intimacy with mysticism, intimacy with spirit, between spirit and our bodies, the cells of our bodies. And it's about nourishing the cells of our bodies with the life-affirming message that soul has to offer us. So fear, ultimately, it comes from a primal mind, the primitive mind, the part of the mind which I have a hard time pronouncing, the amygdala. Is that how you pronounce it? Amygdala. Say that again? Amygdala. And it's a primitive part of the mind that is activated by fear perception. And fear perception, we don't have to look far. It's all around us. It's part of our media and it's part of our social culture. We live in a fear-based world. How can we get away from it? How can we not be afraid? How can we really we can't get away from fear. We can't get away from anger. We can't get away from sorrow. We can't get away from guilt. There's no way. This idea of that evolution is about leaving all that behind. Let's think of this again. No. Evolution is about taking all of that with us to God, to the light, to universal consciousness. It's about taking all that we deem unworthy to the light of divinity. It's saying, oh yeah, I am sacred. All of me is sacred. Especially fear, because fear needs the divine. Fear needs love. Fear is showing up for one reason only. It wants to be loved. So I have a lot of fear in my life, which means that I have a huge capacity for love. My husband once told me we were in Mexico and we were swimming, and it was kind of rocky in this area and wavy, and you're underwater, it looks like the rocks are right up, and I'd get out of the water going, oh, that was so scary. And he says to me, Linda, you're scared of everything. And I said, yeah, that must mean I'm really courageous, I'm really brave. That exists here too. Okay. There's a poem I want to read to you. Some of you may have read this. It's by Rumi, and it's called The Guest House. And Rumi says, this being human is a guest house. Every moment, a new arrival. Every moment, a new arrival that comes through that door. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Every moment, a new arrival. Welcome and entertain them, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing. And invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, whatever comes. Be grateful, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Each has been sent as a guide from beyond the veil. If we make sorrow wrong, we miss out on its guidance. If we make guilt wrong, we miss out. It might have something to say to us about our belief system. It might have something to say to us about our mother's belief system. It might have something to say about what we inherited. But if we're not listening, we're not listening, not only aren't we receiving that guidance, but if we're not listening, we're not surrendered to the moment. We're not open to its mystery. We're not open to possibilities. When we're not open to possibilities, we live the familiar. We repeat the familiar. We project the familiar onto the present moment. Because how could we do otherwise? We're not open to possibilities. We're just going to be reliving what's known. So to me, ultimately, fear of whatever, it's the unknown. But it's even bigger than that. It's living the familiar. It's projecting the known onto the unknown because we know how to deal with it. It's the devil you know. That's what a client once said to me. She didn't want to leave a job. She wasn't happy in that job. She wasn't treated right in that job, except there was a little bit of progress. At least she knew her job and she felt secure in it now, finally. She worked 14-hour days. She hardly got any recognition, any gratitude. She had an opportunity for a better job, better paying. People were valuing her, telling her why they wanted her to work for them. And she was like, I'll keep my old job. And then she finally said, it's the devil, you know. I know this. I don't know what's over there. And she was freaked out. She was brave. She took the new job. Okay. She faced her fears. And she knew there's going to be challenges in the new job. Yes, there's going to be new challenges. And because of that, she will grow and have greater experiences born of true intimacy with self. The intimacy that comes from taking risks. But they're not uncalculated risks, not unsafe risks. Fear tells us we need to feel safe. And need to feel safe is valid, it's worthy, it's appropriate. I recently learned from a relationship coach, his name is, help me out, Jason Gaddis, I think you that. And he talks about the attachment needs. And you know, we can have healthy attachments or not healthy attachments, but think of healthy attachments there's 4 fundamental needs that must be met. And the first need is emotional and physical safety. Okay. And then there is the need to be seen, understood, acknowledged. We need that. Okay. If you work for a job where you're not receiving that, it's only natural that you'll be drawn somewhere else. If you're in a relationship where you're not receiving that, it's only natural that you're going to feel unsettled. Okay. Need to be seen, heard, understood, acknowledged. The third fundamental need is to be soothed. That's it. Soothed, comforted, cared for. It's what you do with your team members. Because you know, in order to get the best out of them, you also need to make sure that they're emotionally sound. Okay? But that doesn't come with caretaking. Caretaking is not the same thing as comforting someone. When you're comforting someone, you still have your boundaries. When you're caretaking someone, now you're trying to do the work for them. But when you're really listening, really seeing someone, you accept them exactly where they are. You don't need to fix them. You don't need to change them. And when you're on the receiving end of not being fixed, not being rescued, how does it feel? I mean, to me, it feels safe. Okay. When somebody's trying to fix and rescue me, I don't feel safe anymore. It's like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me that needs to be fixed and saved? Years and years and years ago, a friend was telling me something, and it's my friend, I was very protective, and I was trying to fix it and telling him what he should do, and he says, Linda, what? Stop trying to fix me. Just hear me. Just hear me. Like I said, fundamental need to be seen, to be heard, to be understood. Okay? But we need to give that to ourselves too, because when we're trying to fix ourselves, when we're trying to control our emotions, when we're trying to make them go away, we're not a safe place for ourselves anymore. And if we're not a safe place for ourselves, how can we be a safe place for others? I mean, we all want to live in a better world, don't we? We want to live in a rich and vibrant, peaceful world. And that takes creating a safe space for ourselves to arrive in this body. It takes creating a safe space for others to arrive in relationship with us. And when we live life that way, we naturally develop relationships where other people join us there. Other people start to be a safe place for us to arrive to. When you think that way, you start to send a different message to your body, a message that's more hopeful. If you're only operating out of fear perception, what happens is that triggers the thalamus, the amygdala. I'll get that eventually. Okay. The thalamus and the pituitary gland, as well as the adrenals. So the whole nervous system gets activated. The flight or fight hormones get activated, and it sends a message to the cells of your body that there's danger. When the cells of your body get that message repeatedly, the message goes to the nucleus of the cell, the DNA. Now, it's not just a message that you get in the moment. Now it's a message that you've built up. What happens is the DNA is a circuitry that interconnects with other lifetimes. So if you're in a fear perception of loss, now you're interconnected with other lifetimes of loss. Hence why you'll go to see a therapist, you'll end up doing past life regression because your state of being has opened a door to another lifetime that is experiencing something similar. So now your fear perception is compounded. Not only is it based on your experience now and your ancestral lineage and the collective fear that we live as a whole, but now you is compounded by connection with other lifetimes that you've experienced, that level of loss, or whatever it is that you're frightened of. Okay? So can you imagine just compounding and compounding? At some point, we have to step off of that, breathe, and look for the openings. Look for a new perception. Look for a way. One of the things I ask myself is, what does this fear need right now? Why is it here? What does this anger need right now? What does this hurt, this sorrow, this grief, this depression, what is it needing right now? So that brings me to a place of raising my consciousness. I start to look at the need for safety, the need to be seen, the need to be cared for, the need for support. That's the fourth fundamental need, the need for support. How can I support myself in this? And that may be, how do I reach for support? How do I ask somebody else for support? And sometimes it's not even the support I get. Sometimes it's the support I ask for that frees me. Just asking for it frees me. It sends a message to my body that I'm willing to advocate for myself. I call that the advocacy brain. Stan Tacton calls that the ambassador brain, the frontal lobe, the part of the brain that operates out of that higher consciousness. It's more an intuitive brain. It's connecting with your pineal gland, and the pineal gland is your activator. It connects you to source energy. And when you look towards that, now you begin to connect with resources. I was going through my book and reading about emotions and fear when there's something I wanted to share with you here, and it's, we all need heart connection and to rest in the certainty that we are protected and cared for. We need to be liberated from having to work so hard for love, from having to work so hard, having to prove that we deserve or worthy enough for love. To be welcomed and to be accepted for who we are. And we need to see in ourselves and our children and others in our lives the depth of inner innocence that we all have. The inner innocence that is inherently part of all our emotions. If only we could look at our emotions as pure innocence. I want to ask the question, would we berate a child for being afraid? Well, some of us have been there. I've been berated for being afraid. My father told me, well, I'll give you something to be afraid of. And some of you have heard that story. Yeah. But this is a different time. And if you think of yourself as your own child, would you make your fear wrong? Would you scold such pure innocence? Would you make your sorrow wrong? Would you scold such pure, pure innocence? Motivated by deep feelings, we are propelled forward on our spiritual journeys. We embrace all of our experiences with profound acceptance, and we return to love. So I think that Mass India, when they asked me to talk about fear and how to transcend fear, what they really asked me to come here to talk about tonight is love. So definitely Mass India wants to join me on that. For those that haven't seen me channel, let me just give you a little bit of intro. Mass India is a group of 7 spirits. Their name is, well, Mass India. When they gave me that name, I'm like, couldn't you give me Mass India? Hardly anybody knows how to pronounce that. It means the movement of energy. And that's very important because the way that they communicate, it's not just words, it's not just a message, it's energy. And some people actually go through a shift of consciousness by receiving Mass India's guidance. They go through well, Grace, you had such an experience. At one point they came and kissed your third eye and you just felt it run through your body. 15 years ago. Yeah. So they work with our bodies, they work with our energy, they work our chemistry, they work with us in other lifetimes. They go into that DNA and help us heal then and here simultaneously. Right? And when I channel, I remain present. I can hear what's being said, and God knows how it is that I can get out of the way. How it is that I can surrender so much. And that Mass India can still work with me. They're using me. They're using my language. And it's both subconscious and conscious. I could feel them going through my vocabulary and figuring out how to say something. And other times, it just blurts out of my mouth and I have no clue they're going to say it. I think they're going to say something else. And then they say, like, what? Yeah. You might want to remember to exhale. She was on a roll. It's good to exhale, to not hold on to any of it, to let your body process the teachings this evening easily, naturally, without any effort. When you think of it, if it's a matter of not controlling your emotions, then we're talking about effortlessness. And for some of you, there has been a lot of efforting going on. And that's no fun. And if you're climbing uphill and it's steep, take a moment to sidestep. Go sit on a rock and contemplate, my life is really uphill right now. I'm struggling. And look at all the beliefs about yourself that you're wrapped in around that. Nose to the grind. How do you say grind? Going up the hill, looking at the same thing over and over again. Life is hard. This isn't working out. What do I have to do? There's got to be an answer. Please, please give me an answer. Oh, go. Okay. I think I heard you say to turn right. I'm going to turn right. Oh, it's still really steep. God, please. I just need a guidance. Okay, trudging along. This is really hard. And all the while, Spirit is trudging along with you. Yeah, this is really hard. Yep, this is really hard. And you're saying, I hate that it's really hard. We can see that. I just can't do this anymore. It's too hard. And we as Spirit, just like, it really is too hard. You'd think we'd tell you how to make it easier. Those darn spirit guides. Why won't we just tell you how to make it easier? Why won't we just say, okay, these are the directions. In 3 blocks, turn left, and this is the answer. This is the chapter to read. We want you to think in these terminologies. Okay, then you'll get there. But the mind says, what do you mean that terminology? Well, what are those directions going to lead anyways? How can they possibly lead to any resolve? Look how hard it is. So what we're getting at is when you're here, we can't reach you. We can't reach you. Nothing can reach you. Nobody can reach you. All we can do is this. Yes, we can see this is really hard. And all the while, we're deeply and utterly in love with you. All the while, we see how utterly courageous you are in this. We can see how attached you are to that story. We can see how attached you are not to only that story, but your mother's story and her mother's story, or your paternal lineage story. We can see that. And we utterly adore you. And then at one moment, that feels good. We're right here. That feels really good. Yes, we're right here. And then you lean into us a little bit more. And you let us in. And you say to us, the way is so steep. It appears so. And our love penetrates little by little, and you start to say, it doesn't really have to be, does it? No, it doesn't have to be so steep. And you begin to not feel so alone. And you let us take you to a different reality. A reality where you are loved. And notice it's your desire for, it's that, but this feels good. It's okay that this feels good. No, I'm not allowed to feel good. I'm shameful. Yes, you believe that. That's it. And we absolutely adore your belief that you're shameful. We adore it. How you're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. And then there's an opening and you go, I am? I'm beautiful. Oh, maybe I'm worthy. Maybe I'm loved. And exhale. And then somebody else comes around in our behalf. They tell you how beautiful you are, and we rejoice because there is an opening, and we can go through that opening, and there's an excitement in you, and you receive it. And we are together again. We who are Mass India, we who are your spirit guardians, we who are your guardian angels, we who are God, we who are the goddess, we who are your soul family, we have never left you. So, it's not, how do I get myself out of this mess? What decisions do I need to make? What do I have to do? Stop. What do I yearn for? What makes me sing? What makes me feel alive? If all you focus on is that fear perception, you are in trouble. Because now your body is operating out of that survival mechanism. But you are so much more than that. And together with Spirit, we are so much more than that together. We believe you really understand that. Thank you. There'll be plenty of time for questions afterwards. But since we've entranced you so well, we would like for Dofila to continue. That's our name for Linda, some of those that you don't know. The name means the lover. And the one that awakens you to your need for love and desire for love. Good. So she is going to play these bowls and she's going to entrance you some more. And while you are experiencing that, what we recommend is please remember to exhale, which means relax into it. Let the bowls penetrate you. And yet, at the same time, you can meet the bowl. You can meet the sound. Because that's how these bowls are sung. That's how they come alive. There's a meeting place between you, your need, your presence, and what the bowls have to offer. That's what channeling really is. It's meeting a need. Why are we here? To meet a need. We are compelled to it. We can't help it. We are truth, and truth just can't help. We just can't help it. Good.